10,000 prisoners occupied the grounds in late 1944. Within a few short months, that figure deliberately doubled. 20,000 men were violently compressed into a confined footprint calculated for less than half their volume. For the SS administration, this extreme density was a mathematical calculation rather than a logistical failure. Commanders abandoned any pretense of adequate housing during the severe European winter of early 1945. Guards packed the surplus population into crumbling wooden stables and flimsy canvas tents pitched directly on the frozen earth. The rhythmic sound of thousands coughing echoed endlessly through the uninsulated sheds. Ohrdruf was merely one node in the vast Buchenwald network, a massive system that eventually absorbed over 280,000 human beings. The SS deliberately engineered this spatial deficit. They created an environment completely devoid of the basic infrastructure required to maintain human life. Ordinary camps isolated targeted populations. Ohrdruf constituted a massive underground construction site. The SS drove this enormous human tide into the NBO Mountains for one precise technical objective. In November 1944, the Reich activated this sprawling facility. It immediately formed a critical, secretive node of the vast Buchenwald complex. The engineering logic behind the project was strictly functional. Tunnels pierced the solid rock. The Nazi war machine demanded impenetrable subterranean space. They utilized identical slave labor mechanics at the Mittelbau-Dora complex. There, exhausted prisoners assembled V-2 rockets inside similar hollowed mountains. The Ohrdruf excavation possessed a clear, highly calculated blueprint. A massive communication node slowly took physical shape. It sat directly beneath the deep foundation of the old Amtgaren castle. A strategic railway network connected the separate underground excavation zones. Historical records indicate these frantic engineering efforts secured testing facilities for experimental wonder weapon projects. Heavy equipment remained completely scarce. The bedrock required immediate removal. Starving prisoners shattered the hard mountain face. They physically hauled the extracted stone away using only their bare hands. Ohrdruf possessed 0 gas chambers. Pickaxes and rotting barrack straw replaced them entirely. Building subterranean facilities for wonder weapons required immense physical exertion, demanding 14 continuous hours of heavy labor every single day. The SS crammed the newly arrived workforce into dilapidated horse stables and flimsy cloth tents during the freezing European winter. Standard wooden bunks vanished completely from the interior layout of these temporary housing structures. Prisoners collapsed directly onto layers of rotting straw that grew stiff with dried blood and thick with typhus-carrying lice. Temperatures inside the uninsulated sheds frequently dropped below 0 degrees Celsius at night. The official daily food ration supplied to each inmate consistently remained under 1,000 calories. This severe nutritional deficit guaranteed rapid physical deterioration under the crushing demands of the stone quarry. Command transferred experienced guard units directly from the Auschwitz complex to oversee the mountain excavation and accelerate the mortality rate. These veteran guards introduced established punitive techniques to the daily routine, turning minor infractions into immediate death sentences without specialized execution infrastructure. The camp maintained this precise cycle of bodily exhaustion and infectious disease without any interruption. American vanguard units approached. How to hide thousands of corpses without industrial crematoriums. The SS mobilized Hitler Youth for roadside executions and started tearing open the mass graves. As the front line narrowed to just a few kilometers, the guards rushed to dismantle the physical evidence. Evacuations turned into a rapid purge. Guards forced inmates out onto the roads. Over 1,000 exhausted prisoners died during these marches. The rule was simple: stop walking, take a bullet. Hitler Youth squads shot anyone who collapsed from starvation or thirst. Bleeding bodies lined the dirt paths leading toward the deep forests of Thuringia. Back inside the perimeter, the camp command targeted the burial sites. Surviving prisoners dug up their dead comrades. The SS engineered makeshift cremation pits. Inmates laid down heavy brick foundations on the bare earth. Next, they positioned 60-centimeter steel railway tracks across the masonry. They stacked the exhumed corpses in dense layers over this crude iron frame. Work details threw pine logs and raw coal into the gaps. Finally, guards poured liquid tar directly over the stacked flesh. Flames caught instantly. Thick black smoke from burning tar and coal blotted out the camp infrastructure. The human body consists mostly of water. To completely incinerate bone and tissue, the process requires an enclosed environment and temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius. Open air disperses the thermal energy too rapidly. The SS expected to reduce thousands of bodies to ash over an open flame. Basic laws of physics dictated otherwise. The fire burned continuously right up until the final retreat. Silence at the gates of Ohrdruf. The SS guards had already fled, leaving 30 fresh bodies right on the main pathway. In early April 1945, United States armored divisions advanced through Thuringia at a pace that broke German defensive timelines. The sheer speed of the American mechanized offensive forced the camp administration into a panicked, disorganized retreat. They deserted their posts without covering their tracks, leaving the evidence of their actions exposed to the arriving troops. The gates stood wide open. Just steps away from the living quarters, the execution squad left their final mark on the cold morning stones. 30 prisoners lay scattered across the dirt path, their bodies drained from months of forced labor. Thick crimson pools spread beneath them, and the blood remained warm enough to release visible steam into the freezing spring air. The guards had pulled the triggers merely minutes before the first American vehicles breached the perimeter. Moving through the arrangement of emaciated victims, the infantry identified an anomaly among the striped uniforms. An American aviator rested on a wooden medical stretcher, immobilized and left behind amid the hurried evacuation. The guards made sure to eliminate potential witnesses, targeting those who posed no physical threat to their escape. The soldiers documented the final piece of evidence remaining on the dirt. One gunshot to the head of a single United States Army Air Forces pilot. What remained of the extensive SS cleanup plan? Beneath the charred railway tracks, American troops found the definitive proof of a failed concealment operation. The final accounting of death reached 7,000 victims. This site operated as a forced labor subcamp of Buchenwald. The statistics revealed the true pace of death. 3,000 individuals were killed in just one single quarter. 3,000 dead over 90 days meant that more than 30 prisoners perished inside the perimeter every 24 hours. Starvation claimed most. Guards executed the remaining survivors with point-blank shots directly to the back of the head. Time simply ran out. Perpetrators tried to turn the forensic evidence into ash before the retreat. They used wooden railway ties to build large pyres. Heavy iron grills stood balanced over the open pits. Shattered human skulls, cracked bone fragments, and unrecognizable bodies lay tangled beneath the thick metal bars. The scent of heated tar and burning flesh saturated the air. The cremation attempts failed. The unburned bones and scattered evidence remained exactly where they fell, lying fully exposed under the clear April sun. General Dwight Eisenhower walked past the excavated trenches containing bodies. The Supreme Commander inspected the perimeter not as a military strategist, but as a forensic investigator documenting state-sponsored crimes. On April 4, 1945, the 4th Armored Division and the 89th Infantry Division breached the camp perimeter. By April 12th, a delegation of Supreme Military Command arrived at the freshly exposed mass graves. Heavy gravel crunched under the boots of Eisenhower, George Patton, and Omar Bradley as they navigated the execution sites. The sheer density of the uncovered remains required immediate legal preservation on a governmental level. Consequently, Eisenhower issued a strict mandate to carefully photograph and officially record every single meter of the facility. George Patton stopped at the doorway. The man who directed tank breakthroughs refused to take a step inside the wooden structure. The inspection reached the surviving residential barracks. The SS had covered their walls and floors with white lime. Patton possessed a reputation as the fiercest commander in the United States Third Army. He carried pearl-handled revolvers. He demanded constant discipline. Yet he stood paralyzed at the threshold. He survived the muddy trenches of the Meuse-Argonne offensive in 1918. He commanded the relief of Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge, but Thuringia defied his entire combat experience. The general approached the heavy wooden door. He looked inside. He froze. Patton flatly refused to cross the line. The stench hit the officers. It was the heavy smell of rapid decomposition. The SS scattered unslaked lime across the wooden planks. The white powder failed to mask the rot. Inside the dark room, human remains lay stacked up to the ceiling. The SS guards arranged them like dry firewood, naked, skin pulled tight over bones. Patton turned his back to the doorframe. He warned his aides he would vomit if he took one single step further. American infantrymen counted the victims. 40 bodies occupied one small barrack space. This was the final tally of the camp overpopulation that began in the winter of 1944.